She was the kind of nurse everyone wanted by their side. Calm, kind, and always smiling, Melissa was known as the heart of the hospital. Patients praised her gentle touch. Families felt safe when she was around, and co-workers admired her dedication. She never missed a shift, always stayed late, and never complained. To the outside world, Melissa looked perfect. Her social media showed a normal life. Coffee with friends, pictures with her cat, and quotes about kindness. At church, she volunteered every Sunday. Neighbors described her as polite and helpful. No one had a bad word to say. She worked mostly in the geriatric ward, caring for the elderly, many of whom were near the end of their lives. Her job was tough, but she never let it show. She held hands, gave comfort, and promised families she would take good care of their loved ones. No one suspected a thing. Not her boss, not the patients, not even the families who trusted her with their most fragile members. Melissa had built a perfect image. But behind the uniform, behind the smile, was a secret life no one could imagine. The truth was darker than anyone could guess. And when it finally came out, the entire town would be shaken to its core, because Melissa wasn't just a nurse. She was something else entirely. A quiet town in shock. The town of Riverside had always been peaceful, with its tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, and one small hospital. It felt like the kind of place where nothing bad could ever happen. People left their doors unlocked. Kids rode bikes till sunset. Everyone knew each other's names. Life moved slowly, and that's how they liked it. So when the news broke, it didn't feel real. A nurse, their nurse, was being questioned in connection with multiple patient deaths. The same nurse who had comforted grieving families. The same nurse who had sent birthday cards to elderly patients. The shock hit hard. People gathered outside the hospital in silence, staring at the building like it had betrayed them. Some said it had to be a mistake. Others didn't know what to believe. Rumors spread quickly. Was it just one death? 2? More? How could this have happened under everyone's nose? The local cafe was filled with whispers. She seemed so sweet. I saw her last week. She smiled at me. Even the police looked shaken. They weren't used to crimes like this. Not here. Riverside had trusted Melissa. She was one of them. That made the betrayal feel personal. And as more details came out, the town's shock would soon turn to horror, because the truth wasn't just bad, it was unthinkable. Patients start dying at first. No one saw a pattern. After all, the patients were elderly, many already battling serious health issues. A quiet death in the night wasn't unusual. Doctors signed off the reports, families mourned, and the hospital moved on. But slowly, the numbers began to rise. In just a few months, more than 10 patients had died under Melissa's care. Some staff noticed it, but brushed it off. Just a bad run, they said. Old age catches up with everyone. Still, a few nurses whispered to each other in the break room, "Doesn't this seem odd? Why is it always her patients? Some deaths seem too peaceful, too sudden." One patient, Mr. Carter, had been doing well. He joked with his daughter that morning. By night, he was gone. The family asked questions, but got few answers. Another woman, Mrs. Hale, had been recovering from surgery. She wasn't even considered critical. But then, she too passed away during a night shift. Melissa's shift. There were no signs of struggle, no alarms, no panic, just silence. And through it all, Melissa remained calm. She comforted families, cried with them, and told them she did everything she could. Her notes were perfect. Her timing always clean. She left no trace. But the deaths kept coming. And soon, someone was going to take a closer look. Suspicion begins to rise. It was Nurse Kelly who first spoke up. She had worked with Melissa for years, but something didn't sit right. Too many deaths, she whispered to the head nurse. And always when Melissa's on duty. At first, no one wanted to believe it. Melissa was their best, their most trusted. But still, a quiet investigation began. Supervisors started reviewing patient files. They looked at times of death, nurse rotations, and medication logs. A pattern began to form. The same medicines, the same shifts, and always Melissa nearby. Some of the medications weren't even supposed to be used in those cases. Powerful drugs meant for extreme pain, given in high doses, but they were listed carefully in the charts, making everything seem normal. Then came the security footage. In one video, Melissa was seen entering a patient's room late at night without logging it. Minutes later, she walked out, calm and collected. By morning, the patient was gone. Whispers turned to questions. Was it mercy? Was it murder? Some staff defended her. She's just doing her job. Others weren't so sure. Even the hospital director began to worry. The town couldn't know. Not yet. Not until they had proof. But behind closed doors, the truth was unfolding. And soon, Melissa's perfect world would begin to crack. Hidden clues at the hospital detectives were finally brought in, quietly and without alerting the public. Their first stop, the hospital's pharmacy records. They found something strange. Melissa had accessed strong medications far more often than any other nurse, especially a drug called potassium chloride, which can stop the heart if given in high doses. The records showed she had signed for it multiple times, even when no doctor had ordered it. At first, it seemed like a paperwork error, but the same drug kept showing up in the files of patients who had died on her shift. Then came the autopsies. Families who had buried their loved ones were contacted. Bodies were exhumed. The tests showed high levels of potassium in several cases. It couldn't be a coincidence. These were not natural deaths. A janitor came forward next. He remembered finding empty vials in the trash, not in the proper disposal bin. One even had Melissa's initials on the label. It was a small detail, but it mattered. Every piece was starting to fit. Even her computer searches raised red flags. Late at night, she had looked up quiet ways to die and how much potassium is fatal. These were no longer just mistakes or bad luck. The mask was slipping. Melissa had been careful, but not perfect. And the truth was finally rising to the surface. The double life revealed to the world. Melissa was a kind-hearted nurse, but behind closed doors, a different picture emerged. Investigators dug deeper into her personal life, and what they found was chilling. Melissa had debts, lots of them. Credit card bills, late payments, and loans. Her perfect smile had hidden a life falling apart. She also had a secret online life. Late-night chats in strange forums. Conversations about death, control, and power. One username kept showing up, AngelaFmercy99. The messages were cold. She talked about patients like numbers, about the rush she felt when helping someone pass. Coworkers began to remember odd moments. Times when Melissa seemed too calm after a death. Times when she arrived early, stayed late, and volunteered for the toughest patients. Ones who couldn't speak, ones with no family. It all started to make sense now. Her phone revealed even more. Photos of empty hospital rooms. Notes about patients and their conditions. Ones she had no reason to keep. And a chilling list: names, dates, and drug amounts. Melissa had lived two lives. One for the world to see, sweet, loyal, dependable. And one in the shadows, secretive, dangerous, and cold. The trusted nurse had become a silent predator. And soon, there would be no hiding left. A chilling confession faced with growing evidence. Melissa was finally brought in for questioning. At first, she denied everything. Calm, polite, even smiling. "I would never hurt anyone," she said. "I loved my patients." But detectives pressed harder. They showed her the drug logs, the autopsy reports, and the messages from her secret account. Her smile faded. For hours, she said nothing, just silence. Then suddenly, she whispered, "They were suffering, I helped them." The room went still. The detectives leaned in. "You mean you ended their lives?" Melissa nodded slowly. "It was mercy. No one else would do it." But her words didn't match the truth. Many of the patients weren't dying. Some were recovering. Others had families waiting. Melissa had taken that choice from them, quietly, cruelly, and without permission. She admitted to at least 12 deaths, maybe more. She said she did it alone. No one helped. No one knew. And that was the most chilling part, how easily she had hidden in plain sight. When the confession ended, she asked for a glass of water. Her voice was soft, like she was still at work, caring for someone. But the mask was gone now, and the woman the town once trusted was finally seen for who she truly was. The trial and sentence, the courtroom was packed. Journalists, families, hospital staff. Everyone wanted to see the woman behind the crimes. Melissa walked in wearing a plain suit, her hair tied back, no emotion on her face. But all eyes were on her. She was no longer the nurse people loved. She was the accused killer, and the truth had already shattered her image. The prosecution called her cold and calculated. They showed the timeline of deaths, the drug records, her online messages. One by one, family members took the stand, sharing their pain. Mothers cried, sons demanded answers. They wanted justice for the loved ones taken too soon. Melissa's defense tried to argue she acted out of compassion, that she meant no harm, but the facts told a different story. These weren't mercy killings. They were secret, cruel, and without consent. Her victims had no voice, no choice. After weeks of emotional testimony, the jury came back with a verdict: guilty on all counts. The judge called her actions a betrayal of the highest kind and sentenced her to life in prison with no chance of parole. Melissa didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply stood, nodded once, and was led away. The trial was over, but the scars she left behind would never fully heal. Questions that still remain even after the trial. The town of Riverside was left with more questions than answers. How could someone so trusted hide something so dark for so long? Were there signs they all missed? Could more lives have been saved if someone had spoken up sooner? Some former patients began to wonder if they too had been close to danger. Families revisited old memories, sudden changes in health, strange behavior, unexplained doses. Fear and guilt spread quietly through the community. People asked themselves, why didn't we see it? The hospital made changes, new rules, tighter checks, regular audits, but trust had been broken. For every kind nurse doing their best, Melissa's name cast a long shadow. Even years later, her story would be whispered about in the halls, her picture avoided in old staff photos. Some believed Melissa didn't tell the full truth, that more deaths had occurred, never linked to her. Others thought she enjoyed the control more than she ever admitted. The list she kept, was it complete, or just the beginning? Melissa remains behind bars, silent and unreadable, and though justice was served, the unease remains. Because sometimes the most dangerous people aren't strangers hiding in the dark. Sometimes they wear a smile and a nurse's uniform.